Jim, go ahead.
Okay, tonight you have, first thing is we have a bid on property. This was a property that last week it was Unit 9, 379 lot. We did counter with the 75. This was a different proposal for 55. I recommend that we stay at the $7,500. It's at R4. The comp set she gave was on the back sheet from the realtor. He shows that they were $5,000 lots in those other two that were close to it. But like I said,
how many square feet is this, if I may?
You I had it last week. I just let me pull up my one. $7,200.
Okay.
7,200.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the bids on property? Okay, dual well.
Okay, then next, I know you guys want me to go out for bids. We have to go for bids on this since of the price to do it. What I'm looking at is usually January, February, and March are leanest years. I know we have money. I'd like to have the final ending of what we ended up with last year at the end of the year. I'm asking you guys if it is fine that long as I can get the well done by May to put it in service. That way I have security with money and stuff like that. I'll come out more at the end of February looking for bids for it, so that way we can have a May completion on it. If I do it right now, and right now it's kind of hard to get anybody in that position to have it done right away. It's muddy, it's sloppy. What is your thoughts on it?
So if I understand right, you're just asking the board when we get to that in the regular meeting to...
Well, no, last meeting we had, you guys wanted me to go out and get bids on this well right away. Like within the next 30 days. And after looking at it and looking at our financials, and we're having problems with Cassell balancing. So I want to make sure that we have funds and stuff. And within the last month, we've been fighting with the sanitary survey, which we need to have our #1 tank recoated inside and out. There's no problems with it other than that there's some rust spots in it that they're saying that it's over the 5% to do it, that it needs to be redone.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
I think that the two jobs are separate. So we need to work on the tank as well, but that water, typically are those bids that for water well work, are they about 90 days?
Yeah,
about
usually
90 days.
They'll secure them for 90 days. And that's what I'm looking at is I would rather put it off a couple months so that way we have a 90-day window within April and May instead of...
So if we actually requested you to go out for bid in March, that would be adequate to be able to, because we need to, can you assure us that if we need that well will be up and running by the end of May?
Hopefully. I don't even go to do the work, but I can try and get the guy in here to have the work started in May. That's what I'm looking at, is to have them started in May.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Were you done, Neil?
I am done, yes.
Go ahead, Bob.
First off, we got two issues. The first one is, he's already been instructed to put the bid out, and it appears that that bid hasn't gone out. The second is the money. The money is not coming from the operations. That was, we had discussed this a year ago, which was part of the money that's in savings. So we're talking about things that have nothing to do with the when we do it at this point. The bids haven't even come back, and the money is separate from the other funds. We can't dip into it to use in other things anyhow. I'll yield.
Mr. Chairman, if I,
Just a second, Greg, and could I let Jim respond to
yep,
what
go
Bob?
ahead.
I disagree with that. We didn't say that it was going to come out of the bond money at that time, and I will go back to the tape. It was wherever we could get it to make it financially work. I would rather keep the bond money if we could do it out of operationals. I'd like to be able to do it out of operationals, out of what I know we're over this year by probably, it was close to 180 in our water side. And I'm looking at that as, why take it out of our bond fund and keep it as in our savings if possible. Yeah, it was an update. I told you that we needed to go into a 60, since it was over 60,000, that I needed multiple bids on it. I didn't really want to say we're going to start on it right now, but that's the way you guys voted, and if you want me to continue that, that's fine. We will go get bids, but I'm looking at all the aspects of, okay, these bids are going to be good for usually 60 to 90 days. I know Donnie has tried to get the other person. I know he's talked to another well company to try and get them, and that's been a month and a half trying to get a bid from them. So we're still in contact with Hydro, and I just got a note back on them as to what we're looking at, if we understood the bid. I'm explaining to them that this is what we're looking at, but he doesn't have the time right now to do it either.
Mr. Chairman, response?
Bob, let me go to Greg, and then I'll return to you.
Couple questions. Yvonne, so money situation. Bond, operational funds. What's your thoughts?
It's all water coming out of the water enterprise. We have 20,000 budgeted for capital for water for the whole year. So we didn't include it in the budget for that.
Okay, what's it look like if we do pull it out of operational? What's that going to do?
How much is it? I'm sorry.
You're looking at probably 60,000, 60 to 70,000.
We're going to be over budget in that line item by the difference.
But
Which
also,
we can correct. But
yeah, you could have a budget amendment on that.
Yeah.
Which we should have the funds by the time we get through with the end of the year from last year.
We'll have to sit down because I know you have some stuff on order that still is going to be deducted from that money. We'll have to sit down and kind of look at that.
But there is a possibility this is going to work out.
Yes, that's why I would like to look at all angles of it instead of just pulling it out of the bond fund. Because right now, we do have to have 85%, or I'm sorry, 15% go into sewer out of that bond fund. We've used probably 60% at this point for water. So it leaves us in there. I like to have more as a cushion in case of an emergency and pull this out of operations, because I know we will have it in operations from what we gathered from the end of the year.
Okay, and second question is, so what's the deal with the bids? Why are we having such a difficult time with these other companies?
I do not know. It's because it's a deep well, and however you want to.
Are they just ignoring our phone calls, or are they?
No, it's just that there's not too many companies that do it. There's probably 3 in the whole state that can do it. One is this hydro. One is the guy that we had looking at it, and he didn't want to deal with it to begin with. Now hydro came in and looked at it, and we're trying to see if he wants another crack at it because it's so unsure.
Okay, and that's the only 2 right now that we've got.
That's the only 2 that right now, and that's why I'm looking for a third one.
I yield.
Bob, go to you.
Okay, I want to go to the money part first. I am not opposed to taking out of operations, but to get the job done, we had talked about this back when we started buying water meters. Whether we set it aside or not, the money is available to do the job in savings. Now, I would rather not use the savings, but it's where it could come from to get the job done. As for the time frame, first off, we have to put the bids out. We're not putting the bids out to specific people. We have to advertise the bid. We have to give at least 30 days for the bids to come in. That bid process will also include your time frame for doing it. So they can write in their bid 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. They don't have to bid if they don't want to. So if we only get one at the end of our 30 days and his bid says, I will complete it in 60 days, that's our time frame. At this point, we're not setting a time frame. There's no need to even discuss the time frame because we've got no bids on the table to consider the time frame.
All right. Anything else?
It looks like Harry wants to talk.
Who does?
Harry.
Okay. Harry, you're muted. Harry.
Okay.
There you go.
I agree. I think we need to look at when do we want the project done? When's our target? The 1st of May, the middle of May, and then if we get the bids out there and say this is when we have to have it done, because we don't even know if that water is good yet, because we haven't been able to take the plug out to test it. Am I correct?
Well, we know it's good.
Okay. So I think what we need to do is, if we set out the bids, but we don't want to start until maybe the middle of April or the 1st of May, so they know when it's going to be started, but at least we have the people in place, and they can put it on their schedule, and we can have it on our schedule, and then we can, we know where we're going, because I think if we wait till the last minute, and we end up with a whole bunch of little screwballs going on, it won't happen. I yield.
Thanks, Harry.
Okay.
Any other comments before we move on to the golf course restaurant lease? All right, Jim, go ahead with that.
Neil and I sat down. We reviewed the old lease with Becky and Adam. We reviewed what they had, where we were at. We came up with this as a preliminary as to coming to the board. I've had Carolyn look over it. I know there was concerns with it, with the first year only being $1,000, but that is for a 12-month period. We don't know where COVID's going to be. I've had some feedback from Bob as to, well, why are we helping them out? I just feel that we need to, they have been good tenants for the last 3 years. They have met all the obligations in the last 3 years contract. We're looking at taking it to a 5-year contract with raises every year. As the second year will be 12, third year will be 10% increase, which would be 13 up to $1,500 a month.
Okay, questions or comments about the lease?
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
Okay, first of all, Neil, I'm going to go to you because if I remember correctly, you actually were in the restaurant business for a while, correct? All right. Is the equipment that we've got in that restaurant, well, first of all, how many square feet is that restaurant?
The problem
How many
is-
square feet are they leasing?
If I may just discuss this with Greg, Mr. Chairman.
You may.
The problem we have with that, of course, is that the dining room is part of their lease.
Yes.
And that would be probably not, what we ran into, what I ran into, is this is not a typical restaurant lease situation because it's shared item, it's a shared area with a pro shop with a golf course. The dining room in a restaurant that size, the dining room would not be that large. You probably wouldn't be paying that many square feet for a
Okay,
restaurant.
so do we know what the square feet is?
Of the total square feet, I don't know.
I believe it's right about 2,800.
About 2,800 square feet.
Yeah.
Do we know how many square feet of the dining area is shared with the pro shop? So that dining area there.
And that'd be difficult. You know,
That's probably
pretty difficult to really nail that down.
Pro shop doesn't generally use it, only the tournaments.
Right,
use
it would be the golfers
And they
basically.
get-
The golfers and
the
stuff are
restaurants
using
get the use
Yeah.
of that because they're catering to the ones in there.
They are, so golfers would come in there to relax, possibly. So there would be that kind of usage, but as far as nailing down how much would be attributed to the golf course versus the restaurant, that'd be hard to decide.
Okay.
I figured your dining room is probably about half. Because here's a diagram, Greg, that's with that as to
Dining room's about half of that, so they've roughly got 1,400 that's dedicated to them, and then roughly 1,400 that's dedicated to the dining room, which is shared by the pro shop.
Well, that 1,400 also there, if you look at this chart that they laid out, includes the patio. So.
Includes the patio,
Yeah,
which
so
I'm
they're
not really
getting-
sure we should be.
They're getting all of that in addition.
Well, the patio and the lounge area, okay, they're getting to use it, but it's not dedicated to just
It
them.
is under this contract.
yeah, it will be dedicated to that under the contract.
So if other golfers are using the patio for something other than eating, the kitchen can ask them to leave.
No. Yes, it can under this contract.
Well, I don't think they would, but
Well, I'm not asking if they would.
I'm-
I'm asking what the contract says. Because if
It's
they're getting
just like,
exclusive rights and they have the ability to ask people to leave, then they're paying for this part.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, that's the way I see it anyway.
I don't know that, you'd have to actually file trespassing charges. But you're right. It should, as far as actually spelling it out, possibly that should be spelled out.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah, it
that
could
something
be
like
spelled
that
out.
should be spelled out. Because, I mean, I'm all for not charging them for this area as long as it can be used by other people. But the minute that they have the right to tell other people that they need to leave, then they need to pay for that right. That's all I'm saying. And then as far as COVID, I got a chance to go through this. What was the stuff that was covered in COVID in this lease? I didn't see
Well,
anything.
it was just that the first, since we had COVID last year, they were closed for 3 months. They still honored their lease, they paid it. They went down to 25% or just carry out, whatever, to keep in business.
Okay.
And they followed still the recommendations of the golf course as to being open. They were open. They serviced the golfers.
Okay.
But they couldn't really serve lunch. They had to serve lunch to go or whatever, where the people could go out and eat it on their tailgate if they wanted to, or
But
whatever.
they could still sell.
They could still sell.
They can still sell, okay.
But,
Well, I understand COVID hit all the restaurants,
Mhm.
and I'm actually not opposed to giving, if something was to come up in the future where once again, common sense doesn't prevail and restaurants get shut down. I mean, I as one board member would not be opposed as to giving them relief for a time period. But all I'm asking is that right now in this contract,
which they're still under a 25% max in their dining room. Or,
they're still under 25% in their dining.
Yeah.
And then they got
Right.
carry out. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I
Other
yield.
comments, questions? Thanks, Greg.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
You may, sir.
Okay. First of all, I respectfully requested inclusion in this contract discussion and preparation, and I was excluded. I respectfully requested legal discussion about verbiage, and I was excluded. I respectfully requested correct comparative documents and have not been given them. How can you do all this by just excluding a board member?
first of all, I did send you the documents when you asked me, Bob. They were emailed to you. I scanned them and sent them. Second of all, I did talk with Terry yesterday, in that Bob wanted to talk to the lawyer. Would you be willing to sit in a conference call with the lawyer? And Terry said, yes. I said, gave Carolyn, hey, could you call and have a conference call with Bob and Terry over this document? Am I right, Terry?
Yes, sir.
So
where's the call,
it's not me that is holding it up. I gave Carolyn the message. I gave Terry the message.
Mr. Chairman, I requested documents again today, and I still haven't received them.
What documents are those, Bob?
The previous lease to this party and the lease to the previous party. I still have not received any of this.
All right.
I checked my
They
email
went out about 1:37 p.m. by email.
I did not. I checked my email before I left.
All right. Well, I got them about then. I don't know.
It seems to be a normal thing that you're getting some of these and I'm not. It's not just this. I got an update, if the corrected or reviewed document can be emailed to me, why can't I not get the other emails? What seems to be the problem here?
I can't answer that. You're on the.
I can't answer it either because I sent it to everybody. If nobody got it, I don't know
Well,
why.
first off, why am I waiting till hours before the meeting to receive documents when I requested 2 months ago to be included?
May I speak to that, sir?
You may.
The last board meeting, or 2 meetings ago, I was at the meeting by Zoom, and Mr. Eichler to be with him because of the restroom experiences, or the dinner, the restaurant experience, to be on that committee. The reason he didn't ask Mr. Cook to be on it is Mr. Cook's never there. How many of you board members have eaten down there at the restaurant or at the golf course, or even paying attention to it to know what's going on in the last year? Or how many have taken out lunches to support a local business?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I call for a point of order.
And I
My
think,
service to a particular business is not in question here.
well,
So.
most certainly
yeah,
isn't. It's your attitude toward that business, Mr. Cook, and you have a problem with women. I'm sorry.
Hey, Harry, I'm going to ask you to stop.
Okay,
right there.
well,
Okay, and as to exclusion, I remember the discussion also, and we appointed Neil I mean, we sometimes have two people on a committee. Sometimes we have one. Sometimes it's stuff that Jim just brings us here. But your objection is noted.
Mr. Chairman, when you appointed Neil, I specifically requested to be included.
Okay, your objection is noted.
So how can we proceed with a document when you exclude board members from discussing with the lawyer or receiving documents in a timely manner to produce a final product?
Okay, Bob, you were the only one who felt that last lease and the lease before was important. No one else requested that document. We are a board of 5. Jim is not answering to any one individual.
Apparently he's answering to you, sir.
No, he did get it out today. And I don't know why you didn't get it. I don't barely know how to get my emails, but he did send it out. And I don't understand.
So if you got the request for my discussion to the lawyer yesterday, then why did that not happen?
I don't know. I don't know.
We'll have to ask Carolyn.
In fact, the email I have says that, let me find it, from the lawyer, when she asked if I would be part of a conference call, said that she had reached out to you. Let's see here. So she sent you and I an email at 11:45 a.m. on January 25th. Hi, Bob and Terry. Jim let me know that Bob would like to chat, blah, 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 blah. And that was at 11:45 on the 25th. She sent me a follow-up email at let's see, the first one, I'm sorry. First one was 11:45 a.m. She sent me a follow-up email at 1:03 p.m. because I had emailed her when I could meet. She said, and I told her I needed to keep it short. She said, I will try to keep it short. I appreciate your willingness to join in. I have not heard back from Bob yet.
Bob hasn't received anything. But Bob doesn't have a problem getting the note from the manager that we've got a new contract.
Okay, and you saw the new contract and you saw the revision.
I saw no revision. I just seen something that said
Clear.
Updated version. It did not line item.
Okay. All right. And so it's my feeling that we all have enough information to move on.
Okay.
And I don't know why you didn't get these things, because I see you on the list of recipients. I don't understand it, but I can't speak to it either.
What address are you seeing on that?
Okay, just a minute. You're Bob at 719-250-0667.com.
No, sir. Where's the dashes?
Just like a normal phone number. 719-250-0667.com.
So you do have dashes, not underscores.
No, sir, it's dashes.
Okay.
So there should also be the COLORCITY. His is the only one that's different. That it works is with the R in it. And I also gave her that email to send it in an email to you.
Again,
Mr. Chairman, I understand that documents may have gone out within the last few hours. This is well past our Friday deadline, even Saturday. And like I say, I had asked for inclusion. I was excluded. I specifically asked that during a meeting. And I've also done some other research. So I needed those documents for comparative. It appears at this time, and it's appearance because I haven't got everything, but it looks like there's triple net written into this current document. And if I look at that, where it says that they're supposed to pay all their utilities, and then I talk to the office, and the office says that they have not paid for the heating of the building or for their share of the water. So we have issues within the contract as well on that.
Respond, Jim.
Yes, they do pay for gas and electricity for their side. Our heating system is the whole building. I can't just separate that out. I can tell you what it costs us per month for heating just heating the whole building would be, let me pull it out here, for electric on it, electric utilities, it runs right at about $100 a month for the whole building for electric. For gas, it runs, let's see, you're looking at $6,000 a year. Wait, I'm sorry.
That'd be $500 a month if that's correct.
Yes. Yeah, so that's for the whole building. So even if you took it at 50%, that's $250. If you take the utilities, that's another $50. So, and the water usage would be probably $200 for what they use, because they are not like a regular restaurant. They don't have plates. The only time they serve on plates is for a slopper or something that is moisture. The rest of it is done out of baskets. So you don't have that much of a wash of plates, silverware, whatever, because it's more on a finger food side. So even if you take into those configurations, and like Mr. Cook said, there's depreciation on the equipment, which Yvonne gave a figure where depreciation was what, 4,500?
4,200.
4,200. So you divide that by 12, you end up with about $75 a month.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm just running
Around
figures.
$300 a month.
About $350, I think.
Okay, $350. So you're at $850, basically.
So we're subsidizing it by $850, and I say that because the gas, electric, and water is coming out of the golf course's budget.
No, it isn't.
It is.
No, because in the same aspect of it, you have them paying gas, and I know what they pay a month as to their electric
So
bills.
who paid the bills?
Pays which bill?
Who paid the bills to get the
For the golf course?
heating and water that the golf course used?
It comes out of the pro shop, which is
Exactly.
where we get the revenue goes into the pro shop side too.
And so does restaurant. They get revenue off of our budget.
No, they don't.
They get revenue, and we're subsidizing from our budget.
No, Bob. Our revenue coming in is from also rent for the restaurant. So that $1,000 and what we take out for the month is part of that revenue.
Part of the revenue going into the pro shop.
Yes.
So this lease is going into the pro shop,
Yes.
and then we're paying all the bills out of the pro shop.
Yes.
And Sorry. May I, Mr. Chairman?
You may. I think I'm confused about the same thing. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I just started speaking. So the rent goes into the pro shop. You're paying the bills out of the pro shop, correct?
Yes,
Now, so they're paying the rent to the pro shop. They're also paying the utilities to the pro shop, correct?
no, they pay their own utilities on their gas and electric.
So is that
So they're
so the
they
gas?
have separate meters, Jim?
Yes,
I'm
they
sorry.
do.
They've got separate meters for gas and electric.
No.
They don't have separate meters for heat
No,
Water.
or water.
or water. Now the heat isn't gas.
Yes, and that's what I gave you the figure of
It's
being
one furnace.
It's one furnace, but the gas isn't on their meter.
right.
Okay. So, and how are we charging for that? Because this is saying, because I read the same thing that Mr. Cook read in here, that they're paying all utilities. So how are we charging them for the heat?
That's part of the rent.
But that's not what this lease says. This lease says they'll pay all utilities.
No, they're paying utilities as required, which is the gas and the electric and the trash or any other services. That is not part of the building.
Okay.
You
Okay,
understand?
so they're only paying two utilities, gas and electric,
Yes.
and telephone if they've got it. I'm sure they pay
Telephone.
their own. We don't pay that,
No.
right?
And,
Okay.
and the trash service, they pay for that.
And they pay for their trash service. The only thing that they're getting free of charge that's included in the rent is heat, although it doesn't state it in here.
Heat and water.
Heat and water.
Yeah.
And lights.
Because it's all on one meter. And it would be a logistic.
And lights.
No, well, in common areas,
In the common areas, the lights are. So, okay. That's not necessarily okay with me, but okay. I yield. I have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, thank you. That was the question I was going to ask. Any other comments?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, and again, as far as like you say, for future tenants or whoever, we're writing this lease for the future, not for just now.
Yeah.
Would it make the board feel better if we broke that $1,000 out of that rent out to where, let's say we sat on $1,000, and that's a different discussion. But would it make the board feel better if we broke it out, $200 was dedicated towards utilities?
Well, may I, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
So the past few leases that I've had, each one has been a little bit different. Okay, but the current one that I'm in, I pay by the square footage of the building. That building is huge, massive that I'm in. Okay, I've just got a small section of it, but for that section that I have, the stuff that is metered separately, I pay for. There are some things that aren't metered separately. Water is not metered separately. So I pay by square footage of the building. Okay, so I occupy 1,300 square feet of that 20,000 square foot building. Okay, so I pay 1,300 square feet worth of that water bill. So he breaks that water bill up that they get every month by square footage, and each tenant there pays. Now I realize that the restaurant uses, that there's 4 or 5 restaurants in that building, and they use a lot more water than I do, but it really doesn't matter because they don't meter it. So I pay for square footage of the building for my water. Okay, I also pay square footage of the building for my property taxes. Okay, because they break out the square footage, which we don't even got that in here. I don't think, I'm not sure if we don't pay property taxes on it, so that's an advantage. But the part of the utilities, if they're going to pay all their utilities, which I think $1,000 is fair, personally, the way this lease is written, I think it's fair as long as they're paying their utilities. And the heat, the way to break the heat off is by the square foot of the building that they're renting. That's the way to break that off. Okay, it's the same way with the water, is by the square feet. If that building is 5,000 square feet, I don't know what the building is, but I'm just taking an even number. If it's 5,000 square feet and they're renting 2,500 of it, then they pay half the water, half the heating bill. If they're renting 1,500 square feet, then we're going to break that up into a percentage, and that's the percentage of heating bill they're going to pay and the percentage of water bill they're going to pay. And in this contract, unless I read it wrong,
You read it right.
I read that they're paying all utilities. So that's the way it needs to, as far as I'm concerned, this board member feels that that's the way it needs to be. I yield.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to address the water issue separately. I agree with the general conception of Director Collins. However, I'd like to point out that I did do some research in the minimal amount of time that I had, and I feel that $300 a month would be a fair water bill instead of 50%, because 50% of that bill would be much more because they're washing carts and stuff. So how I arrived at that number was by using 3 years of a restaurant in town that went out of business. I asked the office to look at their overall and give me a approximate average. We did not sit down and run every number and run calculations. We just looked at number of bills, rough numbers, rounded, and it come out to around 300 of what that one restaurant averaged a month. Yes, there's higher and lower months, whereas the golf course as a whole had a much higher, or the pro shop had a much higher bill. I think it was closer to 7 or 7.5 overall because of their water usage outside on carts. That's why I would suggest, instead of going with square footage, we break it out to a common, because they are a commercial business and they do pay commercial rates. So I compared it to a commercial operation.
Okay, thank you.
May I speak to that, sir?
You may, Harry.
You're not comparing apples and apples, though, because Max's has dishes, and they have many, many dishes every day, and the restaurant doesn't have dishes. Very few dishes. Most of their stuff is napkins and papers. And my concern is, we're not in business to make a profit. We're in business to service the people on the golf course. And I think if we put this figure too high, we're going to lose that person there. And if you remember, a couple years ago, we didn't have somebody over there in the restaurant that cared about the community. We had nothing. And
we had a couple of those in a row.
Yeah, we did. And I think we don't want to price them out of some things because they sucked it up last year because of the COVID. And I'd like to go down there and support them as much as I can, because I don't eat out much, but I go out to support them. But I think if we raise that too much besides what we have here, this is covering our costs, I believe. And if we raise it too high, we're going to lose them. If we lose them, I'll tell you what, that place is going to be bad because no one will go in there.
Mr. Chairman, I'll yield to Director Collins' square footage.
Okay, well, yeah, as part of the discussion, I want to let you know 60% of restaurants fail within the first year and 80% fail within the first 5 years. And those are pre-COVID numbers. And I think that the fact that they are still in business at this point, I don't care if we break something out in the contract specifically for utilities, but I think that $1,000 a month, however you want to add it up and flip it around and label it, is more than adequate for the restaurant industry in what probably the toughest times they've ever had. That's my opinion. Any last comments before we move on?
Mr. Chairman, you just said that you would like to have that is a standard. How about the $1,000 a month? And as the contract says, they pay their utilities.
Yes, I totally agree with all of you that that needs to be clarified. And we can either adjust how the wording on which utilities they're responsible for, or we can take that 1,000, in my opinion, and split it up into different numbers. But I think that 1,000 a month out of their uh, till is more than adequate. And if you look back at the history of that restaurant, it has been years since anybody stayed there more than a year. And having that building locked and loaded with somebody who actually cares about servicing the golfers and through them the community, I don't care how I think for accuracy's sake, we need to define what utilities is or put a number on it. But I think the $1,000 total with an increase every year for the next 4 years, I hope that we have a restaurant owner that is out there for a total of 8 years and that they're sitting in front of some of you again in 5 years to renegotiate another lease. That's just my opinion, but I do agree it should be more accurate. That is not truly reflective of what's going on, and I agree with that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just a quick, I guess,
Sure,
recap.
Neil. And then let's get going. Wait, go ahead, Neil.
When I went over there to talk to him with Jim, my first reaction was to raise the rent. $1,000 a month is extremely cheap for for a restaurant, for the square footage or however you want to break it down. That's extremely cheap. On the same token, we are not in the real estate business, and we are in the business of providing amenities to the city or to doing the best for the city, and I believe that's what we tried to do. The $1,000 a month was specifically because of COVID, and we had some kind of tenuous discussion with them about how restaurant leases are. They're not paying any CAM, they're not paying any, like Greg said, they're not paying any real estate taxes, so they're getting a pretty good deal. On the same token, they probably need a pretty good deal to be able to stay in business. So I think that was our main goal, was to create an amenable situation where it would cover our costs and not necessarily be in the profit-making business, and make it so that they would stay there for the next 5 years. I think the 5-year issue was also a benefit to both sides. We want to be assured that they're not going to pull out in a year. Even if they did pull out in a year, they're responsible for the rest of that lease. So we nailed them down pretty tight on that, and they agreed that they would open back up right away if they could get a 5-year lease and get it at that rate. They also were extremely adamant about the fact, I personally asked them if could they handle $1,500 a month. And boy, they very quickly responded no.
Right.
I believe that would close it down. So that was our premise for going in there. I yield.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm not done with the other sections of the lease. The 1,000 plus the utilities is fair. We do not play favorites to any business. That's not allowed in our bylaws. Now, we have other issues with the lease as well, because you're supplying them a working restaurant that we are paying depreciation on each month for them to have equipment. They are not supplying their own equipment. As Mr. Collins pointed out, there are multiple restaurants in the building he's in. The building owner is not putting in grills and coolers and other things for them. And in here, it's saying that we have to pay for all of the breakdowns over $1,000. So there again, that's another giveaway. If you want to lease them a restaurant or a space for a restaurant for $1,000 a month, plus their utilities, then they need to put in their own equipment. You're using our equipment and not even paying the depreciation on it. So all we've done is set equipment there for another business. So they're getting away, just literally stealing the place at these numbers. Now, I'm willing to be reasonable, but when you add up the heat, the water, and the depreciation, and you subtract that $850 or however you rounded it, $1,000 from $1,000, you're not getting anything. It's a zero. We need to get back to, if you're going to have rent, you charge rent. You don't give them all the equipment. You don't pay all of the heat. You don't pay all of the water. We have to get real here. I yield.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so well, I'm sure there's no surprise that I don't completely agree with Mr. Cook. So if I was going to have any problem with that one particular section, it's the fact that we're maintaining the equipment that they're using. Now, the equipment's already there. We've already paid for it. It's there. We're depreciating it. If they're not in the space, then nobody's paying nothing for it. So I don't want to make it such an unreasonable number that they can't be in the space. However, I do have a problem that we are paying for equipment that they're using and they're breaking. Because if they break a piece of equipment there that needs a $3,000 repair, why is it that we're picking up that cost? That I have a problem with. I yield.
Okay. Bob, did you have other stuff before we move on? You said you alluded to other issues with the lease.
I had asked for the previous contracts so that I can compare who paid what and where. That is not part of the discussion at this point. Like I say, had I been included in this, it wouldn't be last minute. But at this point, we don't have the documentation to even get a fair number until we can see everything. I am willing to yield to $1,000 a month, but let's be reasonable. They need to pay at least the heating and water. I'm not even asking for the depreciation at this point. I'm just pointing out that it is unreasonable for us to ignore it. I yield.
May I speak to that?
Sure.
Now, they are paying, it's part of the lease. If we want to close that restaurant, do what you're talking about doing, and that restaurant will have a for sale sign on it, and no one will be in it. And I think this is a good deal. It's not perfect, because we gain money because their lease covers their heat and electric. It's not part of their meters. But we're not in the business to make a profit. I'd rather have people in there happy, talking, using it, than having it idle, and the golf course is going to hurt. Because if you don't have anybody in that restaurant, that golf course next year will do tiddly. And I'm not kidding you. And I think what they have on plate right now is good, and I think they're very conscientious people. And they and Philip get along real good, and they work together. They're talking all the time. And I think we need to keep them, because the way you're talking, you're going to put them out of business. And that would be really sad. I yield.
Right.
I think we need to move on.
Yep. Let's move on, Jim.
Okay, next is our personnel policy handbook. Went through, made all the changes. Just need you guys to okay it. One of the things last year we talked about was the leave time for employees. We made it standardized as for annual leave, 1 through 5 years. Let me get to it. For vacation time. Hang on a minute. Ten. That's what I'm looking at. Look at it. Holidays, vacation, sports.
What were you looking for, Jim?
Well, what we had was, in the past, it was 1 through 3 years, they got 8 days, where we made it a solid from 1 to 5 as being the 2 weeks, the 10 days. From 5 to 10 and on, you got 4 weeks, which would be the 20 days, and it stayed at that. It still kept the tax, everything else. We had also the changes that we talked about the use of the vehicles, and the wording that you guys wanted in there. That was updated. We updated the new laws by federal for the COVID and for temporary workers. So this is all been up to date now and revised as with all the new laws.
All right, questions for Jim or thoughts about the updated manual?
Probably I must have skipped that page or something. Okay.
Anyone have any comments?
Is, Mr. Chairman, a
Yes.
question. Has the attorney looked at this?
Yes, she looked at it and made sure that everything was included.
So this will
That's
make
all.
us in compliance with the state laws.
Yes, and with giving solid guidelines to employees and personnel.
All right, anything else as far as policy manual?
Another question, if I may. I didn't see it in here. Is there a firearm policy?
That is in the bylaws.
It's not in this.
It is not in the personnel.
Okay.
So Jim, were there any changes made other than for legal reasons?
Just like I said, the 2 changes that we had was with our vehicles and on-call, of who had the right for the vehicles. And then the other one was, like I said, was for the vacation time and setting and sick time. Sick time was actually for the federal side of it. So for part-time.
We had a minimum of 4 hours to post, just 4
Oh,
hours. Sick.
yeah. I forgot about that.
I couldn't hear what she said.
We also changed sick time. You had to take a minimum of 4 hours of sick time. So if somebody needed to go to the doctor just down here and it took them 15 minutes to get a shot or whatever and come back, they had to be gone for 4 hours on sick time, whereas we broke it down to an hour, 1 hour, that they could take an hour of sick time to go see the doctor and come back.
And usually we have a small staff.
Yeah.
So it's hard to cover other positions.
Okay. Last chance if there's any personnel policy questions. And if not, I think that's...
I have one thing, Terry, I'd like to bring up. We've been working on the sanitary survey with Gary out. One of the areas, like I mentioned before, we have tank 1 that we will be sending notices out with our bills that they are asking us for I don't know how to put it, a corrective action plan as to how we are going to get this tank coated on the inside and outside. I'm looking at a 3-year process because the logistics to it is tank 1, which everything that we make goes to tank 1. So it's putting in some valving and some PDRs in different areas to allow us to drain tank 1, to do the operation and stuff. So it's going to be a process to get there. I did get one quote. It was from McGuire Iron that they're looking at. It's about $190,000 to do the outside and the inside of the tank. I am working with the state and Dave Lewis and I as to how long of a period we have to do this. We like I said, are looking for funding. I've talked to them about, all the time they have these mandates, but yet they have no money. If anybody wants to look at the report for the tanks when they dove it, this tank has been this way for 10 years. I looked at the past reports. It was the same areas of rusting pitting on the inside. We use, colloidal electrolysis in it so that it keeps from rusting in, so that it has maintained it to where we're at. They are saying, yeah, we're taking that in consideration. That's why we aren't asking you to do it in such a hurry, but it still needs to be addressed. So I'd like to bring that out. Yes, there will be a notice going out, and it is because tank 1 is our oldest tank. And we'll probably be looking at tank 2 after we get tank 1 done, and then tank 3 after we get 2 done. It's a circus. So it's on the plans.
All right. Any questions for Jim about that? And you said the notice is going out with the bills, Jim?
Yeah, we're working up the notice to go out with the bill, and that we're going to post it like we did with the last one. I'm going to probably put in a management letter as to this is it. There is no concern as to the water being bad. It's just that it needs to be repainted, is basically what it is.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may, Greg.
I wholeheartedly agree with the manager that I am sick and tired of the state coming out with more and more mandates and no money for us to do them. They just magically wave their pen and decide that we're going to come up with more rules to follow for these guys, and we're not going to give them any money to do it. They just come up with it on their own, and when you're in a community this small, it's very difficult to do. And I think I myself think that we need to start pushing back on this stuff. I'm not quite sure how we do it, but I think we need to push back and push back hard.
And that's I had the conversation with this Monique and Calvin that are doing our sanitary survey. I said I even had the divers rewrite a letter stating that there is not a real detriment to this, but they're saying it still needs to be done. And that's what usually happens, Greg, is we are doing the things, and as we're doing things that haven't been done for years, they're going to continue to ask us to get things done if they're seeing that things are being done.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would like to recommend that the board put together a formal letter to, I say a couple of the county commissioners seem to pay attention to us out here, that we need help from the county or from the state, and maybe we get a couple of our county commissioners that seem to care about what's going on out here involved in this with us. And this is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned, that they continue to tell us to spend money on their mandates, and they don't give us any opportunity to get any money from the state or the county.
All right, save that till new business because we can't actually make that decision here.
Okay.
And you are aware your Twitter account could be closed down.
That's all right. I don't care. I don't use it.
Did you want to bring up
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Yeah,
Sure, Bob.
When did this mandate come down? What's the date of the mandate?
It was, the survey was done, the water tank survey was done in July.
I'm not asking about survey.
Okay.
The mandate. What's the date when they changed the rules or said that this had to be done? Because we just found out a different date last time we checked mandates. So when did the mandate happen?
It is happening. It is happening. What I'm saying is they did the tank inspections in July. you got this letter out in October that said that we had the 319, the 309, there was a wire out of the tank. We put a new cover on that. We fixed that. The screens, there was a hole in the screen. We fixed that screen. Now it came down to this. Well, this 319 is that there is rust and pitting in the tank. That needs to be.
My
So
question
this is
when did 319 come about?
in July.
They just wrote it in July.
That's when they brought it to.
That's when they notified us, Bob.
That's fine.
Well, no, that's when they did
That's because of our survey. What I'm asking is when was 319 put in? Was it put in this year? Was it put in 10 years ago? When
And
did
how would
319 happen?
know that? How would he know that?
Because they're not looking at some of these rules saying it just happened. It's the same thing on this loop that we just did. We were given incorrect dates on when everything had to be done and when it happened. And that's what I'm trying to narrow down. If I get this notice,
But what does that accomplish, Bob?
because if it was supposed to have been done 10 years ago, then
And
we
how does
still
that-
have to do it. We can't complain that we didn't do it if it was supposed to be done 10 years ago.
Oh, yes, we can. Oh, yes, we can.
We can't.
And I plan on complaining.
And I don't mind, and I agree that you have the right to complain. That's not my point. My point is that if it is an old rule, we knew we had to comply with that old rule. We know that it's been dove 2 or 3 times. And we know he's just said that it's in there all the way back 10 years. So I want to know that if it's a new rule, I'm with you all the way. I'll go up there and stand right beside you. But if that rule existed 10 years ago, and all the
Did we
that
receive
happened
these,
is
did
the
we receive
previous
these
board
letters from the
kicked the
previous
can.
boards?
No.
We didn't receive one of these letters from the state stating we needed to fix it from the previous dumps.
No. But the tank has the same, you can look at.
It's the same condition. But they never sent us letters
for.
before telling us that we needed to fix it. That's all I needed to know.
Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Terry, I have one, maybe a slight clarification for this.
Here, Donnie.
The diving inspections are on a 5-year interval. So for the last 2 previous inspections to 2020's inspection, out of that inspection, there was 0 issues with those inspections regarding the tank coatings, outside of a note that they were deteriorating, but never to the point of what we have now with this violations coming for 2020 asking to do the tank. So that inspection is a 5-year interval.
And with that too, Donnie,
Thank you, Donnie.
with that too, the inspectors have changed. The inspectors, and if you read the ruling on it, it is, I'd have to pull it out. And that's what got us, is this inspector says it is over the way they said it, and that's why it was put in there. And I'll have to pull that out and show you that. Compared to the other inspector, didn't say that it was a mandate.
Very good. Okay, let's move on. That was informational anyway.
Yeah.
Got a call to close the Board of Directors study session. Move immediately into the regular meeting. Call that to order at 7:14 p.m. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Those of you who would care to join me in a moment of silent reflection, we will do that now. Thank you. Let the minutes reflect that all board members are present. 3 are in the boardroom along with the district manager. 2 board members are Zooming.
Zooming?
We're Zooming. Us old guys are Zooming. The first item of business is the approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to that effect?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need approval of the minutes for the study session and regular meeting of January 12th, 2021. Could I get that motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the 2 board meetings, January 12th and
Study session and regular meeting.
regular meeting, yes.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The bills meeting, finance, operations.
We do have the financials for November in here. Like I said, we're running into some errors with Cassell on December in making sure our bank balances match. It's more within Cassell program, and Yvonne's been working on that to try and get that resolved. But,
Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is Casella software
yes, it's a software
program you use?
Yeah, and
It's that, Terry, and it's also, I've been involved in doing payroll, which is an additional responsibility, and then we've also had some Casella issues with the payroll. So we're working on it. It's a little bit challenging, but we'll get there.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I figured that's what it was, but I wasn't for sure.
But if you look at it as to where we're at from compared to last year, just in November, we're about $500,000 ahead in all the departments.
All right.
In a breakdown.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
On the Cassell issue, is it errors within the program? Is it operator error?
It's a variety of things. The payroll issue is, we have to work with their personnel who sometimes isn't fully trained. So we went through, hours of coding the new insurance codes and everything else. Found out those weren't correct when we actually ran payroll, so we had to redo it again. It took another couple hours. With the financials, we are out of balance. It's by $400. That appears to be their issue because all of our books are in balance. So they copied our database, and they're going to take some time to review it and try to locate. She thinks it might be a programming error.
So are you satisfied with their with their ability to resolve this issue, or
Yes.
I mean, they're working with us, they're getting it done, they're not blowing smoke?
Correct.
It just takes the time. You put in a work ticket, they have 30 minutes to get back to you, but sometimes it isn't the 30 minutes, but then they'll get back to you, and it might take an extra hour or two to explain where you're at, what you're doing, how to change it, and resolve the issue.
The only reason why I was asking is because I deal with IT on a routine basis with my business on books and all kinds of other stuff. Some companies are very accommodating when they need to fix problems. Other companies are royal pain in the wazoo. And that's the reason why I was asking.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Are they
have a good
charging
response. No, it's included in our annual subscription.
Okay, any other questions as far as finance? Okay, Jim, do you have an operational report?
No, we don't. That's usually after the other meeting.
Okay.
Or beginning of the month.
Neil, would you grace us with your reading abilities, please?
I will. Statement of conduct and demeanor. In order for the business of the board to be conducted in the most effective and expeditious manner, it is necessary that all persons present maintain a demeanor of civility toward the board, staff, and each other. Conduct that appears threatening or aggressive will not be tolerated. Shouting, speaking out of order, or the use of offensive gestures similarly are not acceptable. Such behavior shall constitute the forfeiture of your right to remain in attendance and may, as a point of order brought to the board's attention by council or any board member, including the chairperson, result in your being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson upon your refusal, being escorted out of the meeting by the proper authority.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any citizen input tonight?
No, we don't. There's nobody here.
All right. Anything from the attorney, Jim?
No, other than the contract.
All right,
Mr.
so
Chairman?
why don't we go into the
Mr.
agenda?
Chairman?
Hold on, Bob has something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
On the attorney, I made a request for a phone call. I did not make a request for an email. Could you please explain?
She was trying to set up a phone call in the email with you.
I asked for a phone call to me. I didn't
Okay,
ask
no,
her to set
I
one
can't-
up. I asked for a phone call which she could have set up.
All I know is her effort was toward that end, and we can do that whenever.
I'll get in contact with her tomorrow to get it set up.
Tomorrow I can't participate. We're laying up on the
Mr.
paper,
Chairman?
but I could Thursday or Friday.
Mr. Chairman, I do not need you on the phone call to discuss with the attorney.
Well, okay, I have so I guess, are you discussing with the attorney as a designee of the board, or are you doing it as a personal thing?
No, sir, neither one. I'm doing it as a board member to get legal, I don't want to say advice at this point, but positioning on 3 items I had given to Jim.
All right. Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with, since we're a board of 5 members, where it becomes your responsibility financially to take care of these things, and where it's a board issue.
Mr. Chairman, did you sign in on the discussion with the CCACC?
Okay, and no one else has any kind of problem with that. So does that make it your issue or a board issue?
It makes it a board issue because I have made a request. You asked that I go through the system. I have done that. You did not require this of the volunteers nor the other committee. Why are you restricting my access to legal?
I'm not. I'm wondering why you don't want me on the call.
Well, one of the questions concerns you. One of my questions to legal concerns you. I would like to be able to speak freely to the attorney.
Bob, when I first started, I was told that if any of the board members wanted to talk to the attorney, that there should be at least 2 board members on the call. That way it was not just a one-sided conversation when it was brought back as to an attorney. It had to be other than just one board member, so that's why we had the problems the year before when I wasn't here, was we had people calling the attorney, and it could have been the same question that was, she had to explain 5 times.
That's
So
wonderful.
that's why.
So why didn't you do that when you turned loose a volunteer with the attorney.
Me and the volunteer work
Be
together.
careful, I've got documentation.
Yeah, he sent an email, and he sent the email to me first, asking the question.
I think as a board member, we have an obligation. Only as board members, we cannot go to our attorney unless we go through the city manager or the board president.
Which
And
has been
But
done.
we have no authority as one person, because that's your own agenda and that's your own complaints. And that doesn't work in a system when you have a board of 5.
I put in a purchase order request.
Doesn't make any difference if you put in per charge. You need 2 people on the phone call. It has to be another board member or the city manager.
Attorney-client privilege is 5. If you want to know what
For
was
your own
said,
personal thing,
I'm
it is.
sure the attorney will generate a report.
But not when you involve a board member.
Let's not
Yeah, let's.
waste any more time on this. Bob, I will not be on the call. You go right ahead, and then we will have to work on some resolution after the fact, so you won't have to worry about it this time, who pays for that, because we have wasted thousands of dollars on
That's my
personal.
point.
And
Exactly.
you go right ahead. I don't need to be on that call. Thank you. Let's move on. What's next? So we were looking for start on the agenda items.
we have the property sale. It is lot 379, unit 9. We had a proposal for $5,500 for the lot. Like I said, this lot, last meeting, you made a counter to as being $7,500. I recommend that you do not drop it.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the manager's position on this lot sale.
I have a motion to accept the manager's position on the proposed lot sale. Do I have a second?
So I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
So you're going to counter offer at 7,500, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Call the question.
Any additional discussion? What'd you say, Harry?
I say call the question.
All right, we'll take poll vote. Bob,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes,
Greg,
Yes.
Harry.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. It's been a unanimous vote to counter the proposal with a $7,500 price tag. Next item.
Next item, lease for the golf course restaurant. Excuse me.
So
I make a motion that we accept the lease drawn up by Neil and the city manager for a 5-year lease with increments as stated in the contract.
I have a motion to accept the lease as drawn up by Neil and the city manager. Do I have a second? Okay, motion dies.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we accept the lease that the city manager has written up. However, he needs to correct the explanation of utilities, because the lease specifically states that it has that they pay all utilities, and it needs to be corrected to where if we're going to accept this lease the way it is and the way he's saying, then it needs to be corrected that they're paying utilities and that we are paying water and heating.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor that the lease be accepted with clarification of item 2, I believe it is, isn't it? Sorry, I had it here a minute ago. Yes, item 2, that there be clarification as to what utilities are being paid by the restaurant lessee and what utilities are being paid by the district. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend that we table this motion and put the golf course restaurant out to bid.
Greg, are you accepting that amendment?
No, I'm not.
Okay, do we have a second to Greg's motion?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
You may.
In your giveaway here, where is the inventory list? You've got Exhibit 1 that stated within the verbiage that there would be an inventory list. I haven't received that.
There wasn't one in the past one, and
I didn't ask what the past one was.
starting with this one, I will get an inventory list.
What'd you say, Jim? You cut
I
out a
said
little.
I will get an inventory list if this contract goes through.
Okay. Any other?
This is Yvonne. I have a question on number 6. It's in reference to insurance, fire and liability insurance. I think this is new, but I believe that our insurance policy right now covers structure and contents that the district is paying. So I'm just wondering about that.
I believe she carries a fire policy with the restaurant.
In addition to ours.
Yes.
Is it stated in the lease?
I believe it is.
Container for the course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe they should carry that insurance for
We
sure.
just need a copy if we get this approved.
I call the question.
Okay, the motion on the table is to accept the existing lease with clarification of item 2 to accurately reflect which utilities the lessee is paying and which utilities the district is paying. We will do voice vote. Neil,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Bob?
No.
All right. Motion carries. I see no other agenda items.
Yeah, you have personnel policy that was in there.
No, Hendon.
Oh, okay. So we need a motion to approve the new personnel policy.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir?
I'd like to know before I make a motion if this requires a public hearing in 30 days.
No, I don't. I
It's
asked.
not rules.
It's not. Now the laws and bylaws, they do. Personnel is not.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the presented personnel policy.
I have a motion to accept the personnel policy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, we will vote on that amendment by voice vote. Greg?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Motion carries. Is that all the agenda items? Then we'll move
Yes.
to, is there any old business?
Mr. Chairman, under old business,
Go ahead.
the manager was instructed to put bids out for the dual well. Have those bids gone out? If not, when will they go out?
And we'll get them out this week, the end of this week or the beginning of next.
I do have 2 bids currently out. One we've received back, and I've also been in contact with another.
Mr. Chairman, I call for a point of order. Our rules state that we will post
We will post.
4 bids. If we're receiving something now, it has to go away, and they can resubmit after the posting.
And we'll let them know that.
Now what? Run that by me again.
we have received a bid. With this, we cannot accept that bid. We'll have to have them reissue a bid after it is posted and put out.
Okay. Thank you, Bob, for bringing that up.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
So I'm not sure if I should bring this up under old business or new, but executive session for personnel review that we were supposed to do. I brought it up to city manager last meeting. I know I discussed it with you a couple of times. I would like to know when we're going to do this.
When can we do it? I know I have some concerns from other directors that with COVID, masks need to be worn while we're in the room. I'm not comfortable doing it over Zoom.
Okay.
Is
there no way for us to do it over Zoom, just privately, as in an executive session mode, or is that not possible?
I don't know. Any of you know?
Probably do a breakout room. I haven't researched that, and I couldn't do it. I could check it out and see how we can do that.
See if we can do an executive session in Zoom to where only the board members and you are present.
Yeah, and I'm not comfortable doing it. That's why I won't do it over Zoom.
Okay, well, if you're not comfortable doing it, I have no problem with that. But I would like us to make sure that we've got a resolution to this, because I think this is something that would make us a more efficient board and might get some of these here issues that we're having as a board, which I don't think are huge, but I think we need to address them in an executive session as far as manager performance and board performance expectations of each other. Job review. I think it's expected of everybody.
So, Jim, as an alternative to any kind of Zoom thing, and I understand your reluctance to do that, is the phone system at the Metro capable of three-way calls? If the four of you are comfortable in the room, I mean, in your office, you can get quite a bit of distance between you. Can you include Harry and I in a telephone call as opposed to a Zoom call?
We should be able to.
That might be an alternative, because COVID may be with us,
okay,
for a long time.
Yeah, that's fine. We can work on that for the next meeting to see if we can get it in there.
Okay, yeah, then we could just do it like I'm pretty sure you can link two other phones into the Metro office with
conference call.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do the Zoom on the regular meeting like this, and then when we go to executive session, we get off. We just get on our phones and log in, right?
Yes, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, that way we'd meet the requirements for the public part of the meeting, as well as respect Jim's desire for privacy. Very cool. Thanks for bringing that up, Greg. I forgot. Anything else as far as old business? And if not, is there new business?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
So I'm not sure if we want to do a formal letter or if we just want to possibly maybe even the board coming to a decision to have maybe you contact. I think it would carry more weight if the president of the board contacts the state or the county commissioners. Contact Ortiz or one of the other county commissioners. I think it would have a little bit more weight if it came from you with the authority of the board to contact them on this issue.
So what you're asking, and you keep using the word weight, which I'm not sure what you mean by that, but what you're asking is that I draft a letter, run it by the board at the next meeting for approval, to be sent to the county commissioners, asking them for whatever aid and assistance they can render in dealing with the increasing regulations from the appropriate state water board. Is that
That is what I am asking you, sir.
okay? I'm okay with that if you guys are okay with that. I'll run it by you before I send it.
Should we make
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the chairman produce a letter and present it to the board at the next meeting concerning Mr. Collins' concerns.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? I think probably just a voice vote will work, not an individual vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, I think. Any other new business? Okay, Jim, if you want to move into CCACC.
We had 3 applications for builds. 2 of them are houses. One is 4743 Mosca. The packet is there. Application money's been paid on that. You have one on Showalter's 4217. It's a house. And then on 3942 Colorado Boulevard, it's going to be under the yellow, the second yellow.
Any of these owned by
No.
Mountain Home Properties?
No.
Thank you.
The only issue, and we talked about it, is on the garage. They are in the process of the lot line vacation for the garage, which they just want to know if it would be okay, because they want to order the material now, since they have a price on the material, since material is going out. I've got a letter from the surveyor, which is doing all the lot line vacation, stating that it is put into the county. They are just waiting for the county's response back.
And the zonings?
Okay.
And the
Questions,
zonings
comments?
are R1s for the houses, R2 county-wise. They're both R1s. The other one is an R1 for the garage.
Comments?
The garage already has the house.
There is a house, and they're putting it in the lot next door, which they are vacating the lot line. It's in the process. It's just being held up in
And it's
county.
an R1 county or federal?
Both.
Both, okay. And the other ones are both?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
I move to accept these 3 proposed bills.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the 3 bills.
when do I amend that? Can I suggest an amendment now?
Sure.
I suggest that, if it's okay with Mr. Cook, I'd like a motion to amend his to, on the garage, have it conditioned on it meeting setbacks and stuff when they get the lot line vacated.
I'll second the amendment.
So you're okay with the amendment, Bob?
I'll second his amendment.
Okay. I need a second to the whole resolution.
I'll second the whole resolution.
Okay, I've got a motion to accept number 1 on the agenda, number 2 on the agenda, and number 3 on the agenda with the amended setback. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Actions, Jim.
Okay, actions. Donnie brought this to my attention in the middle of the week there, as when he did plow on Showalter, there is cars in the road that he's having trouble to get around them. On kind of a recommendation, I didn't have able to get it to CCAC. I know in the past I've had cars towed, and I want the board to be aware that I think we're at that point where these cars need to be towed because they are on the right of way and interfering with our operations. The other one with the trailers, they're parking them in the cul-de-sac, which is giving Donnie a hard time to turn around within the cul-de-sac to do a proper job. I'm not sure, Donnie, did you say something about the ones in the cul-de-sac on Sunset? You said something to me this morning.
Yeah, so both cases here, the Showalter cars look to be, at least 2 of the 3 are disabled and sitting. They're not even off in the ditch. They're in the roadway. I'm having to go off into the ditch opposite of them to get around them. The trailers that are in the cul-de-sac on Sunset, they are actively moving, but they have plenty of property to be parking them on property and not in the roadway. It's affecting ingress, egress. Assuredly, it's going to affect emergency services. I can barely get through with the plow. And if I can't plow it, then the ambulance or anything else can't get there. So I brought it to Jim for the board to review covenants for those 2 units and see if there's specific writing about that, parking on the right of way. If not, I imagine with a Title 17 issue with the county.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Nick,
First off, I don't see a covenant issue at all if they're on the road. Second, is there parking allowed on a road? I'm pretty sure there is. Now, who owns the road? Is this one of our roads, or is this a county road that we use for access? That's my biggest question at this point to Donnie before I continue.
Both of these roads are under our maintenance program and they're ours.
Okay.
And that'd be why I'm on plowing them. But obviously ESB services are regardless who owns it.
And you said that there's cars on the road that are disabled. Under our own rules and regulations, I'd see no problem with you calling the sheriff and having these cars removed if they are not licensed and are disabled. The sheriff should come out and tag them just like they would do on 165. Trailers are never allowed to be parked on a road. A cul-de-sac is a road. If it's on our maintenance list, you can do the same thing. If it's not on our maintenance list, we have an issue there that we'll probably have to go through legal.
okay, other comments?
A question, Mr. Chairman. When you
Sure.
say trailers, what do you mean? Is it a hauling trailer or living trailer?
It's a hauling trailer.
Yeah, so there are 3 trailers that have been on Sunset Cul-de-sac. There is a car trailer, dual axle car trailer. There is a enclosed cargo trailer. If I had to venture to say, he's probably does some remodeling or some sort of construction, and for ease of use, he's just parking them in the cul-de-sac.
Is that cul-de-sac on our maintenance list?
Yes.
Okay. If it's on our maintenance list, we know that on-street parking is allowed, but not. You can have the vehicles tagged by the sheriff, which gives them 5 or 10 days, whatever the rules are, to have the sheriff tag them for removal.
And I would echo that, Bob. Plus I know that Sheriff Taylor right now is really doing what they can do to help clean up things that I would wholeheartedly endorse that. Other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, on that same thought, I disagree with you because without going out and looking at these specific ones, knowing Showalter, it's probably the ones that have already been turned into the sheriff.
Okay.
I believe Bob is correct. These ones have been there for, well, the only thing they removed was that RV that was
Tore apart.
basically stripped down to nothing, but the 3 cars that were parked around it are still there.
As property owners, we should request that they be removed from our right of way.
Should we put that in a motion? Or
Please.
So I'll make a motion that we instruct the city manager to write a complaint on our behalf to the sheriff to have those vehicles removed from our property, from our right of way. Vehicles and trailers.
I have a motion to contact Pueblo County Sheriff's Office, that the district manager contacts the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office to ask for the removal of the cars on Showalter and the trailers in the Sunset cul-de-sac. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Just a question as far as discussion, in the interim, are we certain that we could tow them if there's no action after a certain amount of time?
We can't do anything.
Okay.
It has to be ran through the sheriff.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
On Bob's deal with the list, we are working on a solution with it. We're going to hopefully try it by this week to get our action items in our spreadsheets, so that way we can go from there and hopefully work that out. I have a couple of people that have volunteered their time to come in and assist me, and we're also in need of anybody else that would like to volunteer on the architectural committee. I'm down to the 2. I think we need to have some more help with it, as we've had in the past.
Okay. Correspondence.
Correspondence. We've got a letter from the Board of County Commissioners. It says, "Dear James, on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, this is to inform you that the Colorado City Metro District has been awarded $150,000 through the Colorado Pueblo County Conservation Trust Fund grant for the year 2021. The completed contract will be forwarded under separate cover of your signature. No award payments will be issued until the contract is signed in all parties. I look forward to working with you in 2021. If you have any questions, please let me know. My contact information is below." As I informed you guys in August, I put in for another $130,000 to the golf course. I noticed that we were short on carts, even though we had carts. New carts come in 30. Our fleet is still old. We're going to look at trading in 19 carts and getting another 30, which that would give us 72 carts, which would enable us to have 4 carts per hole, which at times this last year, Phil did inform me that there were people waiting for carts to come in so they could go out. So if we have issues where we have one person to a cart, we're able to suffice the deal. We also, with that, in the process of getting bids, I've talked to Colorado Golf and Turf. I've already had Yamaha give me a bid on what it would cost for carts. That with that package, we're looking at about $75,000. With that, also we looked at a skid loader that we can possibly use in all areas of our deal, looking at building our cart trails so that it doesn't beat up our carts anymore than it should. with some attachments that hopefully, if we can put some money back and forth in it from water and sewer and roads, maybe that we'd be able to use it for all of the district instead of just the golf course.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Yes, sir.
Because this is opened up to a discussion instead of reading of the correspondence, I wish to ask and respond to with a couple of questions. First off, what is this 130,000 for?
It's for golf carts and a piece of equipment for the golf course, which was the skid loader.
Okay, and you just said that you can use this in other areas. Why can you use it in other areas if it's for the golf course?
If it comes out more than the 130 with the skid loader and attachments to do what we're doing, that's where we can end up using it out in other areas. Because the Metro is putting money in up and above the 130.
So you're expecting to spend more than the 130?
I'm not expecting to, but if it does, we have another option that we can.
Your statement was we'll be able to use it in other areas.
If we have to buy extra, if it goes over the 130.
Okay. With that thought in mind,
mm-hmm.
Why did you not, if that 130 is dedicated to the golf course, why didn't you apply for 130,000 for the parks department?
Because like I told you, I was informed the director and we were not able to get all the information together to put it in the time period that it needed to be for the budget committee. This one was put together and ready to go. So this one was sent in for that.
Well, that's a conflict.
This year I will put in for, and I've already talked to Josh about it, and we will have the numbers together to put it in for the campground.
I am informed that the manager did not get all this together, that you got this together for the golf course. So your bias to this golf course is becoming unreasonable when we can apply just as well for other departments within this community.
Okay. And with that being said, when I was hired here, water, sewer department, and the golf course was the major concerns of our bleeding. This is how I'm trying to get them from being out of the negative and put them into the positive. And it so far has been working.
So why did you not do that?
So why once we get this done, I will work on the campground next.
Which lost the most money of all.
Thank you for.
What's lost the most money of all? Probably the golf course.
No.
Swimming
Okay.
pool.
Well, swimming pool, but.
Okay, hold it. Thanks for your input, Bob. Thanks for your response. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, before you close the meeting, I'd like to ask the chair a question.
Okay.
Would you please make a phone call to me tomorrow to discuss some of the items of interest that I have brought up tonight?
How about get me till Thursday, because tomorrow is my busiest day.
I will accept that.
I will call you on Thursday. Does a particular time of the day work best for you?
No, my phone's with me all the time.
All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I wholeheartedly accept your motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Be safe, guys.
You, Harry.
It's gonna be cold outside.
Yes, it is. That's the reason why I'm